What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And this month we thought after the success that was last month, WCW Halloween Havoc, Abeza and I are back this month, this time to look at WCW Mayhem, not the game, of course, the event. If you Google WCW Mayhem, I think like the first 10 results are about the game. So before going into review, I think that tells you everything you need to know about it. As I mentioned, I'm joined once again by Abeza. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, thank you. We just finished watching the show together, and I'm really looking forward to us discussing our thoughts on this show. And I just want to mention, since you mentioned the game, I actually have WCW Mayhem for PS1 on my shelf behind there. I still have my original copy.
Do you know, they say that of all the wrestling games ever, that game had the best commentary, and in fact, I've actually seen people, because Tony Schiavone's commentating with the brain, people have taken Schiavone out of it and put it onto like gameplay footage of like AEW No Mercy mods or AEW creator wrestlers in 2K.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I like that. I don't remember the commentary on that game specifically, but I do remember either the game before or the one before that was WCW NWO Thunder, and that was awful. All they said was power bomb. After, like, it didn't even matter if it was a power bomb or not. They just called it a power bomb on everything.
So yeah, speaking of Abeza, we've just also recorded a watch along over on his channel. So if you're watching this review and you want to watch the show before you watch what we think about it, head on over to his channel. There's a link in the description and watch the show along with us. I mean, trust us, you're probably going to need us to get you through it because it was far from being the best show, I think.
Yeah, and if you're on the fence about it, then listen to what we have to say here. And if you like the sound of us tearing into it, and you think, I could do with 3 more hours of this, then head over and there's 3 more hours of it over on my channel.
So the show kicks off then, we get the Nature Boy. He's been struck by a lightning bolt, or so his hair looks like it anyway. He says that nobody is going to interfere in any matches tonight. Well, that goes out the window after about 2 minutes in the opening contest. We see Mike Sanders versus Kwee. So that went out the window after about 2 minutes when the Natural Born Thrillers came out and interfered, helping Sanders. Then who made the save? None other but Meng.
It was Meng who was Haku in the WWF. Yeah, most people know him as Haku, but he had a fairly good one in WCW as Meng.
Yeah, he's also, I always forget this, he's also like Tama Tonga's dad.
Yeah. Crazy. He had a bit of a stint in New Japan recently, didn't he? They brought him in for a little bit to do some stuff with Bullet Club.
OG Bullet Club. And
yeah,
the Natural Born Thriller is a bit of a crapper version of Bullet Club, if you ask me. But then also they had a big run-in as well. Didn't they have like a run-in where like loads of people ran out from backstage?
So yeah, loads of security came out to set because Meng was basically killing the Natural Born Thriller single-handedly. Which, by the way, is what would happen in a shoot fight. Meng, like, notoriously one of the hardest men in wrestling history, like, you know, behind the scenes. So yeah, that's what would have happened if it was a real fight, for the show. But yeah, security came out to split it all up. We have to mention as well Paisley changing her hair up when she came out with Meng. She had a Meng style afro. That
completely threw me off. I thought it was like 2 separate people. I like was not paying attention enough.
It was a good wig because she did like a handspring backflip elbow and it didn't come off or move or anything. It was a very well adjusted and applied wig for the time she had to do it. Very good.
So, your winner of the match and still the Cruiserweight champion, Mike Sanders. Now we go backstage, and at this point you'd be forgiven for wondering whether this is a soap opera or a wrestling show, because we had about probably 5 backstage segments. We have Flair talking to Mean Gene. We have Alex Wright, Disco Inferno, handing KroniK over a wad of cash. I wonder what that's for. We have Knoble and Evan Karagias giving like a pretty crappy promo, I thought.
Evan Karagias' part was cringy. Jamie Knoble was showing, he must have been like 21, 22 here, and he was already, his comedic timing was just spot on. Like, I've always thought he was a really underrated, like, comedy guy in wrestling. Like, he was a really good wrestler as well, but his comedic timing's always been really good, I think.
And we also have, now you see The Godfather was taken off in WWF around this time, so we have WCW's attempt at it. Crowbar is now a bit of a pimp.
Yeah, just randomly. Just like last month he was Crowbar, this month he's Pimp Crowbar, so yeah.
So the next match then, we have second Cruiserweight match. This time it's a triple threat tag team match as we have 3 counts taking on the Young Dragons, taking on the team of Jamie Knoble and Evan Karagias, both who have left those teams. Evan Karagias coming from 3 counts, Jamie Knoble, of course, Jamie-san from Young Dragons. And I did not mind this match at all, mainly because it meant I got to listen to 3 counts music.
Yeah. Jimmy Hart, you told me it was a revelation, actually did 3 counts music. I had a feeling it wasn't 3 count, but I didn't know it was Jimmy Hart. I have a 3 count shirt, so no one was objecting to 3 counts presence in this match, I don't think. And but the other thing, it was genuinely a really fun, high-flying, you know, it was kind of a bit of a spot monkey match, but it was a fun one. You know, not every match has to be really deep psychology and you know, chain wrestling and stuff. This was a really fun spot fest, in my opinion.
It's definitely the kind of match to get the show going, get the crowd really pumped, and just get all the viewers like excited for all the action that's going to come. And we go backstage as there's some more action, because Bam Bam Bigelow has put that 70s guy, Mike Awesome, through a table. Sergeant AWOL is about to make the save, but yeah, the damage has already been done by that point. So we spoke about Jimmy Hart and his musical prowess, and he, for some reason, has a match tonight. He is backstage talking to Mean Gene. He's got a match against Mancow. Like, I don't know who this is. You said you thought it was some kind of local celebrity or something, trying to, I don't know, get the casuals involved, but this match was pretty terrible.
Yeah, from what I remember, so I rewatched WCW 2000 a few years ago on the network, like every Nitro, every pay-per-view in order. And from what I remember, I think he was like a radio presenter, like a DJ or what have you. So he's like, they were in Milwaukee, it was something for the Milwaukee crowd to try and talk people into the building, basically. Him and Jimmy Hart had a little feud on his radio show, and it was culminating in a match that you know, it rivaled like the Pat McAfee and Adam Cole match. You know, it was just an instant classic with an outsider from the wrestling business. I did not, it was terrible.
I mean, the Hart Dungeon in Canada is renowned for the talented producers. I mean, look, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, you got Stu Hart, Tyson Kidd, Natalia.
Mancow.
I don't know what went wrong with Jimmy, but he's just not quite the same level as the rest of them.
Oh, I thought you were going with Mancow. Student of the game in the dungeon, yeah.
Something that's just made me laugh, because I completely didn't pick up on this at the time, but back on Sold Out, they did a fatal 4-way match for the hardcore title, which they called For the Hard Way. Well, this time we had a triple threat match, which Mark Madden called Free the Hard Way. So we got a Crowbar in his new Pimp Daddy outfit, taking on Big Vito, taking on Reno, and this was a hardcore match. They hit each other with stuff, but not really a lot of note happened here, I don't think.
No, the only moment of note was Marie showed up. So some woman shows up and tries to stop Vito attacking Reno, or vice versa. I honestly can't remember at this point. But and the commentators were like, "Who's that?" And then one of the commentators went, "That's Marie." And then that was just sort of accepted as the answer. I don't know who Marie was.
That explains everything.
I think from memory, she was between Vito and Reno. She was one of their sister, and one of their girlfriend, and they were kind of fighting. It was like the Shane McMahon and Test feud in WWF. It was like, no, you can't be with my sister, kind of deal. But I don't remember which one was her brother and which one was her boyfriend. I just think that's what it was.
So we go backstage again, and like most of this show seemed to be taking place backstage. By the way, there were 14 matches on this card, I think I counted.
Good grief, 14.
But if you thought that was a lot of matches, we had even more backstage segments. As we go backstage again, and this time it's Kevin Nash and DDP. They're just chilling backstage, reading magazines. DDP said, I don't know who, but he said like someone was shit out of luck.
So that was, I assume it was the Naturals. I honestly didn't listen a whole lot to this segment, but it used to be, Natural Born Thrillers used to say people were SOL before they like jumped them, which obviously stands for, but yeah, so they used to say it all the time, so it was like a harken back to the fact that they're going to be fighting them, I guess. And
the next match then, we get KroniK with Alex Wright. Well, before we go into this match, we should probably talk a bit about the backstory, right? So you said it was meant to be a 4-on-3 handicap match, but Conan like no-showed the event.
Yeah, so I pieced this together based on it, when the Filthy Animals cut a promo about why Conan had no-showed the event. They said they'd been partying and he got lucky or something, so obviously he can't make it to the arena by 7 PM the next day, you know, that's unreasonable or whatever it is. But yeah, but they said something about it being a different kind of handicap match than they were expecting. So that leads me to believe it was originally 4-on-3, and then when Conan no-showed, they switched it to 3-on-2. Which made no sense, because if you're the team of 4, personally, maybe I'm just a natural-born heel, but I wouldn't volunteer to take one of my team members out. I'd be like, no, it's 4-on-2 now. Not my fault your guy didn't turn up. So
the team was KroniK, Alex Wright, and Disco Inferno against the Filthy Animals. That was Kidman, Mysterio, and Conan. But then, of course, with Conan not in the match, we had Disco Inferno drop out of the match. And then it transpired that the money that Disco Inferno gave to KroniK earlier on in the evening was to pay them for this match. And as you said, they worked by the hour.
Yeah, or minute, it would seem. Because this match didn't go very long, really, before they walked out. The weird thing, though, was Disco seemed to go and voluntarily hand them a stopwatch to keep an eye on it, whereas if I were Disco and I was only getting a certain number of minutes, I'd be sort of like trying to distract him from the time.
We can't have a subtle joke, we've got to make it obvious for the fans.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't bring like a grandfather clock and stand it at ringside. Like, look everyone, the time.
So yeah, KroniK's time on the clock ran out. They left the match, and well, it gave the advantage then back to the Filthy Animals, the numbers advantage, who went on to win the match. Yeah,
and see, Disco Inferno, it backfired. It'd have been a normal tag match at that point if you'd have stayed in. You silly goose.
He's so silly.
He's so silly with that hat.
So we go backstage again, and this time it's Scott Steiner's turn on the microphone, but I can't remember exactly what he said, but the fact that it's Scott Steiner on a live mic, I think tells you pretty much everything you need to know.
Yeah, you show me someone who knows what he said on that promo and I'll show you a liar. Who cares? Scott Steiner doing his thing, just let him do it, sit and enjoy it, absorb it, and then realise you didn't understand a word of it. It's great.
More mid-card filler as we get Shane Douglas taking on Ernest the Cat Miller. Now, these two had been feuding, of course, last month at Halloween Havoc. Douglas cost the Cat the match and his commissionership of WCW, and I guess they'd been feuding since then. Like, this match was fine. It was like, you know, any match with the Cat is fine, but yeah, it was just kind of meh, I thought. Like,
yeah, so for me it was a real conflict, because I generally enjoy anything with Ernest the Cat Miller in, and I generally dislike pretty much anything with Shane Douglas in. So I was a bit torn, but I'm just always so entertained by the Cat, you know, his antics and in grabbing Mark Madden by the throat and just for no reason, just because he was nearby and stuff like that. It's just good fun, like it's good entertaining fun. So I enjoyed this match. It wasn't anything special, but I didn't hate it.
So we go backstage again, and someone has smashed up Jeff Jarrett's guitar. Like, who could it possibly be? I wonder if it's the person who he's in a match with later on. Nah, it can't be. It's too obvious. Surely not.
Get Sherlock Holmes on the case, and while you're at it, getting to figure out who keeps budgeting for Jeff Jarrett's guitars when he can't draw a dime.
Well, how's this for a segue? We don't have Sherlock, but we do have Pamela Paulshock. She's backstage.
Beautiful. I hope that stays in.
She's interviewing the MIA, and they just say some stuff. But I think the main point here was when Corporal Cajun, he called Major Guns a bitch.
Yeah, that was very rude. But I think the major thing for me was Chavo Guerrero cut a promo directly to Hugh Morris, Lieutenant Loco to General Erection, and then General Erection kind of just passed it on to Pamela Paulshock, which I'm glad you remember the name, because there's no way I was doing. And it just tickled me, because like Chavo basically cut a promo motivating Hugh Morris, and then Hugh Morris went, yeah, I'm gonna do, and then cut Chavo's promo. It just really tickled me. It was like almost word for word. And then Lash LaRue was very, very rude about Major Guns.
And then it's the return we've all been waiting for as a vignette plays, and just Mark Madden bursts out in laughter. We basically get the announcement of the return of the great one, Glacier.
The funny thing is, what a difference a couple of decades makes, because do you remember, was it earlier this year or last year, Glacier was making a return. I think he ended up in Ring of Honor, and people seemed genuinely excited to see him in Ring of Honor. And yet, in the year 2000, it was a laughingstock for bringing him back. It's funny how people forget and are just excited because, hey, I remember that. But yeah, Glacier was never a good gimmick. Like, I liked it as a kid, and I'm ashamed of myself.
Well, I think the thing is, when someone from the past comes back, and especially when they don't come back to like a WWE, they come back to like an indie or something, sometimes you think they're only coming back, like they don't need to come back, they're coming back because they want to come back and they want to prove themselves. So sometimes it does really work. Like if you look at the work that PCO has been doing since he returned, and similar with David Arquette, who returned to wrestling, you know, quite recently, and he's been absolutely killing it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said David Arquette, because you said PCO and I thought, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of him, and because I was thinking David Arquette was like the one, but yeah, PCO's another great example of someone who's come back and outshone their former self. So yeah, it can happen, but Glacier, all he had to do was to outshine his former self was show up. Like it's not anything major to be excited by.
And speaking of not anything major to be excited by, the match between Bam Bam Bigelow and Mike Awesome is off because Mike Awesome's gone through a table, because that's a night ender apparently. We've never seen anyone go through a table before.
Yeah, this is ECW's Mike Awesome. He had his night ended by being put through a table. Like that seems legit to me.
Well, yeah. See, he's gone back to the 70s where tables just weren't a thing. Like they hadn't invented the table yet, so it's like, you know, it's foreign to him. So that match is off. Instead, we get Bam Bam Bigelow up against the Wall, or Sergeant AWOL as he's called at this point. And this was a match. You know, it happened. We saw it happen. There's no denying that. But Bam Bam Bigelow picks up the win. Of course, the main talking point of this match came afterwards when Bam Bam, we weren't sure what happened at the time. If you go and listen to our watch along over on Abeza's channel, you'll just see how confused we are, because he was down in the ring for a long time, and it looked like he was seriously hurt, like maybe even having possibly a heart attack or something from the looks of it.
Yeah, the word I would use to describe what he did is he flumped. He just crumpled in a heap on the mat. Like it didn't sell a bump. He just sort of deflated to the floor like a bouncy castle going down, and like just stayed there on his face. And then they just kept the cameras on him for an uncomfortable amount of time. So I was saying, like, if this is a work, it's tasteless. If this is a shoot, why are the cameras still on him? Like, what is happening right now? And either way, why is it happening? You know, like I was just incredulous that this was on the screen. Like, but I mean, we got the explanation eventually, and I was sort of vaguely satisfied with it. But I still think they were really pushing with that blurring the line there by faking someone seemingly nearly dying. Like that's maybe a bit far.
Yeah, it went on for an uncomfortably long amount of time, and you started to think like, okay, something's not right, because I mean, Stevie Ray got off of commentary and went over to the ring to have a look. Yeah, something just didn't seem right. But then they were going for the swerve of the century then, because as the next match starts off, who did Bam Bam attack?
It was General Erection. It was going to be Lance Storm and General Erection for the last time, and then Lance Storm came down first. He cut his promo, his usual, if I can be serious for a minute, his just great deadpan stuff that he does, and then General Erection comes out to interrupt the Canadian national anthem, and Bam Bam jumps off the gurney. I can't think what the other term is that people use, but like the hospital bed that they wheel people away on.
Oh, stretcher.
Stretcher, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, he jumps off the stretcher, his neck brace still on and everything, and just jumps General Erection. And I was like, okay, at least I understand the payoff now, but I wasn't especially keen on it.
We go backstage once again, and Buff Bagwell butchers his lines. He tries to say cervical disc, but he comes out with cervical dicks instead, and the crowd are just, howling with laughter at this point.
I think that might have been the first pop of the night.
Quite possibly. Yeah, but of course the laughter doesn't last long, because we go back to Lance Storm in the ring, who wants to bring things back to a more serious tone. So Lance Storm, he attempts to defend the Canadian Championship against General Erection, and I swear we saw this match last month, but we're getting it again now. And
the only things I remember about last month against this month is this month there was a distinct lack of Jim Duggan pretending to be Canadian, and there was also a much more enthusiastically fake Canadian Major Guns. Last month she was wearing the Canadian flag as a bikini, but hated being in Team Canada. This month she's not wearing the flag, but she loves it. I don't know. But that's the main difference, is I don't remember who won last month at all.
So I've just looked it up, and it is a repeat. General Erection once again captures the US title. This is obviously something that pops, obviously the fans love it. They're rushing to buy this pay-per-view, this angle. It works so well that they've done it twice. In fact, I don't know if I mentioned this at the start or not, but I'm going to bring it up now just in case I forget. But this was actually the third lowest WCW pay-per-view buy rate of all time.
And just to mention, the two others were after this, so at this moment when this pay-per-view went out, it was the lowest.
Yeah, the Words sinking ship spring to mind. So we've already seen Buff flub his lines, and now we see Jarrett, because he is in the ring. He calls himself a superstar. Well, he tries to call himself a superstar. He actually calls himself a stupid star, and the crowd are all over him for that.
I think, was it Stevie Ray on commentary? One of the ones on commentary jumped on it as well. It was like, did he just say stupid star?
But yeah, Jarrett and Buff, they have a good, like, you know, there's not a lot to talk about here, but it was a decent enough, one of the better matches of the card, I'd say. Like, these two clearly have great chemistry together. Yeah, but Jeff Jarrett picks up the win when, also in the promo at the start, he said he had a backup plan, which kind of gave this ending away, really, because he found a second guitar, which he smashed Bagwell over the head with.
I, quite frankly, was stunned that his backup plan was a guitar. I never saw that come in. Jeff Jarrett using a guitar in the year 2000. Whatever next. I just couldn't believe it.
Also, something that I think, you know, we both couldn't believe was David Flair, you know, like, for some reason interfere. Well, I guess he was still feuding with Buff from the previous month, I guess, over Stacy Keibler.
Didn't he go after Jarrett? I don't remember. What happened with that interference? I thought he went after Jarrett.
Oh, I don't know, mate. If it's WCW, if you remember what happened, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, for the record, you could have stopped the sentence at, for some reason, David Flair, and just let it just list. There's your sentence. For some unknown reason, David Flair.
So we have some new, exciting, up-and-coming young blood tag team champions in the Natural Born Thrillers up against some 40-year-olds who completely job them out and ruin any momentum they had going into a match. So we see Kevin Nash and Diamond Dallas Page go over the Natural Born Thrillers and your new WCW tag team champions.
The only thing that got buried harder than the Naturals was that false finish that we both loved. We both popped for it. There was a jackknife. I can't remember which one it was on, but he went for the pin, Big Kev, and it was like 2 and 999 1,000. So it was like so close, and the referee just went slip sliding out the ring backwards, and we were like, whoa! Good, you commented, good camera work. I was like, great, like, false finish. And then the referee argued with whoever pulled him out the ring, the other Natural, I assume. DDP hit him, the referee slid in, and then still counted the 3. So Kevin Nash got like a 14 count or something off his jackknife. So, and the entire false finish was utterly pointless. It went from being absolutely magnificently pulled off to, oh, well, there was no point in that, in like a split second. And yeah, it was just crazy.
Okay, yeah, and following that, we have another match where, again, there's not really a lot to talk about. It was Lex Luger against Goldberg. Now, like, as you can imagine, Goldberg's whole thing was just coming in, squashing his opponent in quick time and going out. So, I mean, that's pretty much what this match was. Obviously a bit more of a challenge against Luger than, you know, some random jobber, but, you know, that's pretty much what this match was.
Yeah, the highlight of the match was Mickey J taking a beast of a spear. Like, good lad taking. Like, he took a proper spear from Goldberg. So Lex Luger pulled the ref, which I think I'm sure his name was Mickey J. I seem to remember them having a referee called that. He pulled him in front of him as Goldberg went for the spear, so Goldberg just went through both of them. But yeah, Mickey J took that like a champ. And
speaking of champ, we have the match for the World Heavyweight Championship. We see Booker T defend his title against Scott Steiner in a, let me get this right now, a straightjacket cage match, which is, you know, a cross between a straitjacket on a pole and like a Hell in a Cell match, I guess. Basically, it was the cage around the ring, much like the Hell in a Cell. Straitjacket in the corner, but you don't win by pulling the straitjacket down, you win by pinfall. Yeah, well, classic WCW, I guess. I don't really know what else to say about this.
I mean, you're talking about this like straitjacket steel cage matches don't have a rich lineage in both the NWA and the AWA, and in fact in the Olympics. But but no, it was classic WCW. It was like, hey, we've got one gimmick, but let's add another one anyway. I guess the straitjacket was just there as like an extra additional weapon you can use against your opponent. But to be honest, it only really served one purpose, which was to show off how big and strong Scott Steiner is. Because pretty much as soon as they got it down, Booker T stuck it on him, and then he ripped the arms off, and that was the amount of impact the straitjacket had on the match, really.
Yeah, I think this is one of those gimmicks that sounds a lot better on paper, or like when you're trying to sell the pay-per-view, it sounds like a lot of fun, but like in reality, the execution doesn't quite work. But as you mentioned, like, yeah, Steiner, it was probably made just to make Steiner look strong because of how easily he ripped the straitjacket off, and he probably needed to give him like just that extra bit of a rub, I guess, because he went on to win the match and become the new WCW champion. For the first time, Harry Houdini would be turning in his grave if you could see this.
Yeah, although, to be honest, he'd be wrong, because it's always a good thing when Scott Steiner is A, on the show, and B, winning a world championship. I am totally behind this. I said, in a completely unironic way in the watch-along, Scott Steiner might actually be in my top 5 favourite wrestlers of all time. I just love what he does. He's just entertainment on a stick. Entertainment on a pole, actually, since we're talking about WCW. He's just great fun to watch, in my opinion, like, and that's what really matters in wrestling.
So Steiner basks in his victory, but he doesn't take long to rejoice as he quickly grabs a steel chair and starts just beating everyone inside. Like, first of all, Booker, then lays out a bunch of referees as the show fades to black as we see copyrights WCW year 3000.
Yeah, so Busted didn't mention that in the song that WCW were back when they'd been for year 3000. But yeah, so it's funny because of that. You spotted that little botch with the copyright thing, so I went back to watch it and I noted in 1 minute Scott Steiner hit Booker T in the leg with the chair like about somewhere between 8 and 12 times. Then referees went down, then Steiner hit one in the head, then he chased the rest off, and then he hit Booker T a couple more times with the chair. Within 60 seconds he was on an absolute rampage. It was amazing. Like a minute before the end of the show he hadn't hit Booker T with the chair yet in the leg, and all that happened in the last minute. Incredible stuff.
So overall, like a decent enough show, but definitely like not the best by quite a long margin. I'd say like some fun moments, some good matches, but on the whole, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
So I think this was underwhelming based on what we were probably expecting, having watched Halloween Havoc and probably been surprised by how much we enjoyed that show. But then we were like, okay, so that's the level we're expecting now, and it was nowhere near that standard. It had highlights. I think the Cruiserweight tag match with 3 teams was really good, really fun. Jarrett and Bagwell was a pretty good match, and obviously Scott Steiner was on the show, so there's a highlight. But it had a lot more lowlights for me, and I don't qualify like really bad stuff as that, because sometimes that's still entertaining. I qualify like the boring or just outright pointless or distasteful stuff. Like I didn't like the Bam Bam collapsing. I didn't like the 2 pointless ref bumps that didn't affect the end of the match at all in the second to last match and the third from last match. And I don't think we needed 14 matches. I feel like probably half of those matches could have been missing and no one would have complained. And with all that, it drags it down quite a bit, you know, like the overall experience.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think a lot of the matches you mentioned especially were very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a lot of matches which they were kind of just there. I'd have probably preferred if they had fewer matches but gave the matches like a bit longer to like let the story, so there was some in-ring action, let the story in the ring play out a bit more, especially with how many backstage promos they had. It just felt like they were trying to cram a lot into this one show, which I mean, it gives us a lot to talk about, so I'm not complaining on that front. But
yeah, but we discussed in the watch-along, it created the illusion of a really long show. And I don't know about you, maybe 2 hours in, just over, I felt like the show was starting to drag, which was a feeling I never got in Halloween Havoc. In Halloween Havoc, I was sort of constantly ready for the next thing and excited for the next thing, and oh, this is really good, what's going to be next? Whereas in this show, I was sort of like, oh, how long left? Like just a quick hover over the time bar, like how far off the end are we? Which I never did in Halloween Havoc. I was never looking for the end of the show, which it is the biggest sort of red flag for me when I'm watching anything, but wrestling especially. If I want it to be over, it's not that good,
So overall, what rating are you going to give this show?
I would say it's quite a fall from Halloween Havoc, which I think we either gave an A or an A star because it was genuinely a really good show. So I'm gonna drop this all the way down to a C. I don't think it was a bad show. I think it was a pass, GCSE, A to C, I think it was a pass, but just barely. I think it just about made the positive statistics for the school of WCW, but, at the bottom end of that spectrum.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't know, because I want to give the show a bit of a lower rating, but at the same time, yesterday I gave Survivor Series a D, and I think that Survivor Series was probably, like, slightly better than this show.
A D? That was about 20 letters generous. No, Survivor Series wasn't that bad. It was underwhelming, which is what this was. So actually, I don't think I would blame you for giving them roughly the same rating, because based on what you were expecting from previous shows, they were both very underwhelming. So yeah.
But I think I will go with a C, just like you did, because the GOAT has won his first title, which sent us home on a high note.
Yeah, that certainly dragged it up. I feel like going any lower than a C would be doing an injustice to the 3 matches I mentioned that were really entertaining. You know, like I think they were bogged down by too much. You said at one point mid-card filler. There was just too much of that. You know, you can have a match to cool the crowd, but it felt like there was about 5 matches in a row to cool the crowd at one point, and it killed the crowd a bit. So yeah, I think a C's fair.
So we're going with a C.
Yeah, I think a C's fair. We've got to leave some room for it to get worse. Like we know where WCW is going in a few months. We've got to leave some room for it to get worse.
So if you've made it all the way through this review, thank you so much for watching. And if you for some reason have decided to watch this review before watching, and like we've encouraged you to go and watch the show, you know, stick it on the WWE Network, head over to Abeza's channel, stick on our watch along and watch it with us. While you're there, check out some of the great stuff going on over at Abeza's channel. Do you want to just mention something quickly on that?
So I've been doing some this month, because it's Survivor Series month. I've been doing some watch-alongs of old Survivor Series, including some shows I've never seen before. I covered, let me think, I covered 1990, obviously, because that's the one everyone's been going on about. But I covered a more recent one. I covered 2010 as well, and a couple in between. I think I did 2000. I think I did 95. So I've done quite an array of Survivor Series shows. So no matter what your preferred era is, you might be able to watch your Survivor Series with me if you so wish. I also do wrestling gaming content. I do all sorts of stuff. If it's wrestling related, I'll probably dabble in it.
So yeah, there's a link in the description below to Abeza's channel. Definitely go check that out. Give him a sub. If somehow you're not subscribed to me, but you're on my channel, then you know, give me a sub as well. Give this video a like to help the YouTube algorithm, so it knows to suggest this to other people who might like it. So yeah, that has been it. WCW Mayhem 2000. And we will be back next month with Starrcade.
Starrcade, baby!